Buenos dias. Good morning, everybody. I know we're supposed to do Latinos en Vivo usually on Wednesdays from noon to 1, but we are running into some, just some scheduling difficulties, which happens more often than we think and happens often in radio. Not everybody knows that behind the scenes. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. So today I'm taking over asking for a friend, which is normally with Oscar, and my name is Jasmine. So it's asking for a friend, Jasmine takeover behind the board. All right. So today I was like, we had to have one of our good friends, Bruno. Hi, Bruno.
Hey, Jasmine.
Hi. And, he came in to kind of educate us a little bit on what's been going on, in the state house, legislative, things that people can do to get involved and, how best can we serve our community. So welcome, Bruno. Thank you for doing the asking for a friend Jasmine takeover. I know it's supposed to be Latinos en Vivo, but, we make do with what we can do. But I'm ready. Class is in session, Bruno. Tell us what's been going on. What have you been up to?
Hi, Jasmine. Yeah, thank you again, for the opportunity. It's always, an amazing experience, every time, I come here. So,
Yeah.
thank you. It's awesome. So in regards to, legislations, there's a lot going on,
Mm.
in the state house. Um, and when we talk about legislations, we really think legislation as these monster of like seven heads that are very scary.
It is. It's overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie. For me, like especially because this has been like the first few years that I've been getting involved more in the legislation and getting more involved in figuring out the processes of everything and how everything works. So it can be overwhelming for like the regular person who's never done anything like that, right? So what are some things that are like at the top of the list that we should be really looking out for?
So, so we have a couple, but the most important ones are, the legislation, that enables folks, individuals without a social security number, to apply for a driver's license.
Mm.
Another one we are watching very closely is that they're trying to pass a legislation that would require businesses to enforce federal laws by requiring the e-verify when someone applies for a job.
Okay.
We also have another one that we're trying to decriminalize driving without a license, as well. So that's a big one for us. And another one that is like really important. We have a couple, but these are the most important. Is one that would require the cities and towns not to in a way um, um, cover up and protect immigrants.
Okay.
So in a sense that it would prohibit these towns or cities or the departments within um, to pretty much remove any policies that they have created to treat individuals fairly,
Mm-hmm.
before the law, as well as prohibiting any other city or town from passing any some sort of welcoming legislation
Right.
for newcomers.
Okay.
So
Wow.
these are
So
the
that's
most important.
those are some pretty big topics, and I'm sure there's a lot of heat around these topics, and people feel divided maybe on these topics. And why would it be important? Because I always like to educate people. Like, why would it be important for someone without a social security number to be able to obtain a license?
So yeah, so pretty much, we always talk about as like a driver's license being a privilege, right?
Right.
But in the state of New Hampshire, we have no public transportation. We don't really, everything is so far away.
Yeah, you have to drive like at least 30 minutes to sometimes the closest market basket.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you have kids, you have to drop off, drop them off, at school.
Right.
You have to work. You have to go to the hospital if you're feeling ill. And so forth. So when we talk about, that a driver's license, is a privilege, it doesn't really make sense.
Mm,
Because at the end of the day, it's a necessity. I myself, I didn't have, a driver's license, for 4 or 5 years. I couldn't, afford a car.
right.
Um, and it was like a hell,
I'm sure. I can't
so
even imagine like getting around New Hampshire without a car.
so yeah, so I mean, for me, to get to Manchester, you would take like almost 4 hours. I'm not
Oh
joking.
my gosh.
I would leave, my house, at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would get in Manchester, around 8:30, 8:45
Oh my gosh. That's
a.m.
such a long. That's
Yeah,
a
so
troop.
I mean, and that's like between the walking, the multiple buses, it's just ridiculous.
Right.
And we talk about, oh yeah, it's a privilege. Yeah, try staying without your driver's license and
And try to
driving a car.
maneuver around New Hampshire. It's incredibly difficult to maneuver around New Hampshire without a car or a license, and you can see where people could potentially, fall into poverty or, fall into, hardships in their lives without a license because you have to drive so much in New Hampshire to get to a lot of different places, and especially if you have kids, it can be really difficult. Absolutely. Now,
Exactly.
that next the next piece of legislation that you were talking about that's on the top of the list, which is remind me again.
So the top of the list is is providing a driver's license
Right.
to undocumented immigrants and and other folks, even U.S. citizens that don't have a social security number.
Right.
And he also enhances the the privacy laws that we have in New Hampshire,
Okay.
because we have a lot of federal agencies that fish,
Mm.
go fishing for a lot of information that you would be
Oh.
surprised, how your your data gets used.
Wow.
So I mean, yeah, it's crazy. So
Yeah.
there are actually private companies that buy your data from the government in a lot of states.
Third party. Usually they say like,
Pri-
oh, third party private companies or something like that, and you kind of
exactly,
can obtain your data from something as simple as your email, right?
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So, what are some struggles that you've been facing, while you're fighting for this legislation? Because I always say like, kudos to the people who are like continuously going to the state house, putting in the work, meeting with people, gathering stories, sharing their stories. Because fighting legislation can be overwhelming and can be tiring. And what are some of the things that you've dealt with that have been kind of a struggle for you, or roadblocks that you feel like would be like struggles or roadblocks for other people trying to get involved?
So the biggest one, Jasmine, what I would say, in my opinion, is misinformation.
Oh,
So from the part of the legislators themselves.
oh,
Uh,
really? So like people in our state house just having the wrong information?
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's kind of
So
scary.
yeah, and that's the thing. So we think that oh yeah, these people are extremely smart individuals that they would know everything that comes before them.
Like they
No,
would read everything through.
yeah, they don't.
They
Yeah,
don't.
they don't. They simply don't. Um, and and the majority of them, they're not open, to, a different, opinion. So this legislative session actually has been, I would say, the best one, I've participated in. Very good questions, but it's still, the misconception. So, so pretty much, for instance, we were in a hearing last week, on House Bill 1266,
Okay.
which is the one that would prevent towns and cities across New Hampshire from creating any policy that would protect immigrants.
Okay.
So pretty much they kept asking the same question over and over again. So and the question was, do you think it's like a good public policy, to for our government not to enforce the laws, and we try to to explain to them that no, that's not what we're trying to do.
Right.
As a matter of fact, first of all, immigration is a civil law, not criminal law.
Mm.
It starts right there.
Yeah.
Second of all, that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is, if the city, wants to implement, more welcoming, ordinance or policies that would, treat people there are newcomers
Mm-hmm.
the same way as the people they are born here. They can, but at the end of the day, if that person is a bad person, actually has criminal record, that there is like a criminal warrant in
Mm-hmm.
their name, we want actually the police and the city to collaborate with ICE, to
To
flood
put
these.
those people in jail. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's not like we want people who are criminals and, that, and for the most part, like, I don't think a lot of people come here as criminals. I think it's proven. I believe I read that it actually the majority of immigrants are not criminals that come in here.
So the majority of them, yeah, they come, with a visa,
Mm-hmm.
and they overstay.
Mm-hmm.
But immigration only becomes criminal if the person is removed or deported, and then they re-enter in the country.
Mm.
In that case, yes,
Okay.
it is considered, like a criminal offense.
Okay.
Okay. Other than that, no.
Mm.
Unless someone's, even if they have a green card, they murder someone. That's a crime.
Right.
Not a federal crime, but though that person is gonna be placed in removal proceedings, can be deported.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's not and we kept telling them that's not what we're trying to do.
Right.
As a matter of fact, we have good relationship with law enforcement, because if something happens in our community, we want the well-being of our community as well. So we want law enforcement to take actions,
Mm-hmm.
and and put the people there bad. If I I don't have kids, but if I had a child, I don't want a drug dealer, a rapist, like a felon murder,
Mm-hmm.
living right next to me, and I know this.
Right.
And just because he's a felon, fellow, immigrant, or a fellow, member of the community, I'm not gonna, I'm
Right.
going to accept this. No, I mean it's I care more for the well-being of people than trying to protect individuals that that cause harm to to society. I
Right.
mean, everybody deserves a second chance. I'm not saying that yeah, all criminals are wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've been rehabilitated, you paid your dues,
Mm-hmm.
um, you should definitely participate in everything. But
Right.
if you keep doing it, and that's why we try to have a good relationship with our community and with law enforcement, because the community is the one that really knows,
Right.
and law enforcement really needs the information.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So
working with the community is so important, especially with law enforcement. If we can get law enforcement to really partner up with the community, and it also builds empathy, I think too. Because then the police enforcement can be able to approach um, each person on a case by case basis versus like, oh, just kind of a broad stroke. They're all the same. This is the same procedure for every person, so we have to do it despite whether or not they're a good person or they contribute to the community or whatever it is. Now, do you get a lot of resistance when you go to like the state house and you speak on these, legislative matters? Like, do you get a lot of resistance from the, people in the house?
Yeah, yeah. So as a matter of fact, last week in the same hearing, right after the hearing, we stayed, to speak to some of our, like legislative friends, that we know from the community, and these representative, like approached me and like and asked, can I ask you a rhetorical question? And I said, yeah, go ahead.
You were ready. You were like, oh no, here it
Yeah,
comes.
yeah. So I mean, and his question was, so why do you protect, people, they're criminals, they're taking jobs away, from Americans. Um, and like
What a
and
confusing question.
yeah, so like as I said, like first of all, like again, like immigration is not criminal; it's
Yeah.
civil.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like and second of all, like immigrants, like are really, doing the jobs that Americans don't want, to do, and and they're there, to do it
Yeah.
because, like nobody wants to clean, like toilets.
But we got the work ethic
Exactly,
to get it done.
exactly,
We know we got to get that stuff done.
exactly.
Yeah. Now, that's so crazy to me because I think of the labor shortage that we have right now and how we can't get like workers to come and do work, right? Like see all these hiring events and people, attempting to try to, entice more workers in. And I challenge it with the sense of like, what what jobs are we as immigrants are we taking if there's so many jobs we can't even fill them, you know what I mean?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And like in the immigrant community, Jasmine, it's actually happening the opposite. There is a job shortage.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people cannot, like get work.
Okay.
So there is a job shortage,
Yeah.
which is like a big problem.
Yeah, of
Um,
course. And do you feel like it's in relation to their status, or is it more as just that they can't find the work that, suits them?
No, it's definitely their status
Mhm.
because it's very limited. Like
Right.
immigrants, typically, like undocumented, like work
Mhm.
mostly, like the woman, like house cleaning,
Mhm.
um, and the man construction, landscaping, like and like snow plowing.
Mhm.
So these are the most common jobs,
You're right.
that they perform. So like and typically, there are not that many houses,
Mhm.
to be cleaned right now, especially like
Because
since COVID, like hit.
COVID's just kind of imploded all of that.
So yeah, so a
Yeah.
lot of like people lost like what we call like their like houses,
Mhm.
to clean, because of that,
Right.
like and like as a consequence, these schedule owners, they don't have enough money to pay like helpers,
Right.
and like and we have a high influx of like immigrants. um
That could use these positions with, that pay well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, so yeah, because they're not really like allowed to work. So
Okay.
because of their status, so that
Right.
becomes a problem. But if like a law passes that would enable these folks to work, I can guarantee you, like nobody would be like without a job, because then like all these Americans that are having their job taken away, they would start seeing, oh yeah, so now I have like a competition, so now I have no option, I have to work.
Right.
um you know
Yeah.
so but that's not how they see it.
Yeah, of
So
course. And have we thought about like maybe like because I know Oscar and I have talked about this is like bringing in an immigration lawyer and bringing in an employer. and working together to figure out a way to give people jobs and,
Yeah.
fill those positions.
Yeah, what's the structure? What's the guideline?
Hey,
you know?
here's Oscar, guys.
Hey,
I was
guys.
Jasmine, asking for a friend takeover, but Oscar's back on.
Oh, you you good. She's doing a great job. She's killing it. Shout out to Bruno in the building.
Yeah, he's giving us, a good session here, good class right here.
We have one thing that we, not to get off topic, one thing that we were discussing is like sometimes we self-reflect, and we focus in our community as much as possible to be able to kind of set the boundary, but also how are we propelling forward? Are we kind of running in circles, or how are we elevating ourselves? And one thing is that we're going to be discussing is accountability, and also what is not enough and what needs to be done, before it just like a rinse and repeat type of scenario. But something that I've noticed, especially within the lack of community, is not the lack of resources, but the lack of a literature to be able to advertise those resources. And something that I've noticed also is that when you go to like the DMV, talking about driver's license, there's nobody in the counter that will speak Spanish to be able to educate, or maybe a connection. How are we moving forward to kind of have a stable representation in every single aspect of the city?
Yeah, so that's like an excellent question. So, and that's like something that like I'm starting to to work on, to make to create more professionals. Like within the Latin community, so they can like serve like in positions that like would like help our community, like non English speakers, individuals. Okay, so and like I see as like more as a like long term goal. Like because like we need we have a lot of professionals that come from the Latin countries.
Right.
Like we have a lot of attorneys cleaning toilets, judges.
Yeah, people.
fixing
We talk about
cars.
this all the time. We've got
Yeah,
doctors that are
That's a good segue. 'Cause
driving
I was-
Ubers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That like have all these professional degrees from
Right.
their countries and not able to transfer those here and
Right.
and utilize those skills that are amazing, that we could benefit from here.
Why is that? Why doesn't our professions, is it because of the way of the school systems? Why can't we transfer? You see a lot of Americans do it in Europe. Why is there such a struggle within Latin America, the Latin Americas, to be able to come to the United States and say, I'm a doctor, I would like to, just go to the community college for a year so that we know that we have the same understanding and the balance of the education, and then I want to start my own law firm, or I want to work for the court system.
Yeah, so like one reason, Oscar, and this is gonna sound awful, but like in Latin countries, the quality of education, like
It's so
is
different. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like really really bad. So like when you go to countries, the U.S., like Germany, the quality of the education system, like it is a lot superior. And the requirements, like most of the time, like are even, like higher, the standards.
Right.
So even, to be, like a barber here, you need a license.
Right.
Right. Yeah. You do.
yeah.
Yeah. To even cut hair, you need a license.
You see a lot of apprenticeship
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so so it's so it's like a very like very crazy. So like so I think that like our goal is to help these individuals to catch up like with whatever like requirements there are. Because like even a lawyer. So a lawyer in Brazil, like you go to school for 5 years. Like in the U.S., you cannot do for like less than like 7 years.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so and it's like very like different. And even if I go to Brazil to try to practice law, they're not gonna accept me because I
Right.
don't know the laws, from Brazil.
Mhm.
So but there are ways, there is a company, down in Boston, it's called CED. It's continuing education, whatever. So pretty much they take your diploma and say, oh yeah, you did these courses,
Mhm.
you did software engineering, in Brazil. You wanna continue your education here.
Yeah.
So they take your credits from wherever you took the courses at, even if it's from Europe.
Mhm.
They make an evaluation to make sure it complies, with the U.S. Department of Education
Mm-hmm.
requirements, and they transfer those credits. So they say, oh yeah, so we were able to transfer these credits. The only classes you have to take are these classes.
Yeah.
And then you get your degree here. So
Right.
you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to do like the whole thing, over again if it's the same thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of wish we had something like that here. I don't know if there is a program here.
I know.
Maybe Nashville Community College has something similar, I want to
Yeah.
say, but um, it would be nice to have something like that here in New Hampshire where people could take, whatever degrees they have from their home countries
So,
and be able to
yeah,
transfer
Kind of like
that.
an extension.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So this is actually it's like a private company. So and that's one of I worked at National Community College.
Yeah.
So and I know this information because that's the
Oh,
company.
really? Okay.
Yeah, I would refer people.
Oh,
to,
okay.
Okay.
to
Yeah. See,
transfer
I
the
knew
credits.
National. I was like, National Community College pretty
Yeah.
good about staying on top of that
Yeah.
stuff.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
There's Tell me what you've been doing so far with you're starting the Brazilian consulate
Yeah.
Council.
council. Um, and what's some of the struggles that you're dealing with right now, because that's a big that's pretty huge to be able to establish not only the first but the only Brazilian council here in New Hampshire. What are some of the requirements to be able to open one, and what are some of the challenges that you're facing?
So so there are a lot of challenges. Like one is to fully identify Portuguese speakers in the state.
Right.
Of course the majority of them are Brazilians. But the majority of them are also undocumented.
Right.
So even using official data, I know we are completely off.
Right.
Because of the amount of people I interact every day.
Yeah.
So I mean, so that's the biggest challenge. Another one is to educate organizations on language access.
Mm.
Okay. Because the Spanish is definitely the most spoken language in New Hampshire, and in most of the states across the country,
Yeah.
Spanish is the second language.
Portuguese is actually the number one spoken one in New Hampshire right now.
Yeah.
That's according to the data. That's what
Okay.
they're saying. Portuguese is like the number one spoken.
So
in
you're
New
definitely on
Hampshire.
the right track. my
Yeah,
brother.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's
You're
according to
definitely
the
on the right
data.
track.
That's what we've come
Somebody
to find.
somebody did a double take the other day when we said that. They were like, "Is that real?" And I was like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of hidden Brazilian community networks within the roots of this foundation here in Nashua. There's a lot of there's a lot of businesses. Now we're going into our second multi-service center here in Nashua. There's one in West Hollis,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one in Broad Street.
Okay.
Not Broad Street. I'm sorry,
Canal Street.
Canal Street. Exactly.
Canal
Yeah,
Street. Yeah.
Canal Street. And where do you see this going? Because now, like, what worries me is that we're opening multiple locations and then we're just saturated. I talk about this all the time. It's just like, why not just one hub with a one-stop shop where we unify ourselves as a community,
Mm-hmm.
and we all have a specific target of what we're good at. Because what happens is for the rest of of the non-BIPOC community, it just feels like an avenue of opportunities. Oh well, if he's not going to listen, and that's his, and that has happened within the churches, right? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
And the reason I'm asking that is because there's not a specific one center for the Latin community,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I think right now it's El Centro Latino in Manchester, but I feel like that's more to Manchester than it is to Nashua.
Exactly,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And like I think Manchester is like getting better and on the ball with that. I think we have room for opportunity here
Absolutely.
in Nashua, to create something similar.
Mm.
You know,
And what if there's a family that just got here from Brazil?
Mm-hmm.
What are the processes? Like obviously we were talking about earlier is having a family member just reach out to somebody that's known of helping individuals, of kind of guiding them. What is the process for somebody that migrates here from a different country, from Latin America, and what type of resources do they have? Because I don't feel like that we talk about it all the time, but I don't think that there's a actual web page or a one-stop shop where people can go to and say, hey, what's the point of contact for this for this person?
So I mean, that's the problem. There isn't. The only way that they will really get the information is if they go to church and someone from that church helps them navigate the system. How you register your kids. School.
for school, yeah.
Where do you go? To the hospital. If you get it. If there is an emergency, where do you go to the local clinic, for general checkups, but it's still there is a big misconception within our community, because every time we have a headache, we go to the emergency room.
It's true, yeah.
And that's a big problem, and and it has been happening for years and years and years. And it's lack of information.
Yeah.
It's lack of educating our community with that respect.
No, we were just talking about trying to create professionals within the Latin community. How do we go about that? Because I think I think that's a great way to go about it, because I feel like we have a lot of wonderful people in the community with amazing skills, and sometimes that maybe they don't have the confidence to step up and be like, I can do this, or I can do that, or I can contribute in this way, or I'm smart, or my skills are good in this. And sometimes I often feel like we shoot those people down because they don't have a degree, or something up with their status, or you know what I mean? Because I say this all the time. It's like, we started this not really knowing much, but once we were giving the opportunity to learn, and we were given the tools to learn, we grew as a result of it.
And most importantly, we were supported by allies.
Right.
Individuals that didn't say, hey, this is how you should do it. Individuals of guiding us, of showing us the way.
Right.
And that's what we need within our community. We don't need representation of saying, hey, is there a need for that? Great, we'll take it from here.
Yeah.
Oh, is there a need for that? Okay, let me show you how you can actually propel, move forward, and show your community. Because that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're taking from what we're learning. We've gone trips to Washington, D.C. With different organizations and met different politicians and the shakers and the movers. And, hey, so-and-so, we are that outlet. But we don't want to feel like the gatekeepers, right? Because we don't want to be associated with that. Right. Because us, a lot of organizations will say, "Hey, so how do we connect with your community, even the city?" And then we're saying, "Well, there's a way. When we figure it out, we'll get right back to you, because there's so many avenues." Do we have that connection within our community? Yes. Do we know the need of our community? We're figuring it out, right? And do we know that this can be successful? Absolutely.
I also find that sometimes these people are like, how do we connect to your community? And we're like, Well, actually, if you just invest some time or some effort into growing an individual from our community,
Yeah.
they would be such a great asset for you. And a lot of the times we're like, whoa, 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 we have to spend time teaching them what to do. You
Right.
know what I mean? Rather than, seeing it as a way to be like, you know what? This is great. That means we can teach this person the way we like to do things and utilize, maybe they're bilingual and like utilize those skills and get better at bridging that gap and then adding more people from that community because, you've got that one person or those two people that kind of contribute and that they're trying to grow so that they can bridge that gap.
The 3-step process of, learn, heal, and implement. That's what our community needs because we're dealing with a lot, With that said, I still, I still haven't had the privilege of meeting a bank. I still haven't had the privilege of meeting a bank that won't take our ideas but actually implement some of the great opportunities. There's no better and bigger community than the Latin community of passionate individuals that will take what you're teaching them and fast track it forward.
Right.
We're a product.
Absolutely.
We're a product of that, right? How many realtors within our communities? How many realtors do you know?
We know a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jess.
Yeah, shout out to Jess.
No, I mean, but how many realtors do we know within our community? That's just popping up out of everywhere, right?
Right.
But now one seminar on how to obtain the house, right? Now one seminar, in our language. I'm sorry, let me correct myself. In our language, right? By one of us taking the lead on that. What about financial literacy? That shoebox mentality that we have of putting the money away, and then I don't trust the bank. No way. And then the banks don't say, well, why are we going to help the Latin community if they send their money back to their motherland? They don't invest it here, right? Well, did you guys know that as soon as a bank opens, that there's an opportunity to buy stocks, and that you can buy stocks at a minimum of putting a down payment? You know what that does to your family? If that bank is established for about 30 to 40 years, the next generation is set.
Yeah, I mean, the other, and the other thing too with, the money in the box is that,
The money in the shoebox.
yeah, so, so people, especially, undocumented folks, they're afraid that, they're going to be deported.
Right.
They're going to
Because
be,
they've got to show an ID.
they're going to get, picked up, at any moment. At the moment, they leave their house,
Yeah.
They live in fear.
Let's educate the people. Let's go further.
You know
Let's
what
go-
I would love though? I would love to have like an event where we could have, a couple of immigration lawyers, and have people come to that event and like figure out a process.
Jasmine, how many
Yeah.
times have we talked about so many educational platforms?
I know.
It's just getting the right people
Right.
Yeah,
without
exactly.
without their personal interest and putting their foot forward for the community.
Right.
Because we have to hold each other accountable at that point too.
exactly.
If it doesn't benefit me, well, how am I gonna do it?
So but the thing too is getting the right people. It's not just doing it for doing it.
Right.
So and the reason why I say that is know your rights presentations. For instance, okay. The way I do it is keeping in mind undocumented folks. Whereas you see, most attorneys, these big advocacy organizations, that don't do anything.
But they say they advocate for those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say they do it.
You said it.
Yeah,
We've
so,
we've been
Yep.
through a couple of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the things, for example, just, very specific is that, if you get, pulled over by, a police officer, tell them, that you're going to exercise your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. So, it's easy for you to tell someone who is undocumented when you have that freaking piece of plastic,
Right.
Giving you,
Yeah.
in your pocket,
Right.
So, because, police officers, they act in a certain way. They're
Right.
trained in a certain way.
Mhm.
If, you confront them, they're going to confront you.
Mm-hmm.
And, can that person, has, a higher likelihood of actually being detained, by that police
By
officer.
exercising their rights.
Yeah.
I find that
So-
too, actually. I find that anytime I try to exercise my rights, I feel like it pisses off a police officer
Exactly.
Hey, what
more.
are you, a lawyer?
So,
Wait, what did you go to law school? Did you drop out? Yeah, they get snappy.
Yeah, they do get
no,
snappy.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they're type A, personality.
Because they
So-
gotta be, or
Exactly.
supposedly.
Listen here, amigo. Who do you think you are?
Exactly.
Knowing your rights, yeah. And especially if you're like from the black and brown community, they look at you. They're like, "Ha, that's a joke. You don't know. You don't really know what you're talking about."
My favorite is when they go back to the car and they look it up really quick, and then
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh man, I didn't know that one off the top of my head."
yeah. They're like, "Oh yeah. Go get your supervisor, your shift
Yeah.
supervisor. I'll wait for them."
But it's true though, Bruno. Is I find that a lot of advocacy groups don't understand that in those moments, it's easy to be like, yes, I'm going to exercise my right. You can tell people, someone who's undocumented, you have these rights. You can express those rights. But in that moment, when it's down to the nitty gritty in that situation, you don't know how that police officer is going to act, and like you said, they're
Absolutely.
more likely to be detained because they think that or the police officer is going to think, oh, they're just trying to bust my chops, basically, you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
give me a hard time, and that's why I struggle sometimes with some certain advocacy groups, because they put people to tell their stories and they ask
Oh,
undocumented
yeah.
people to come out and show up, and for me, there's a problem with that because I'm like, those are.
That's a trigger.
For me it's a trigger because I think to myself, if
You're putting them at
I'm
risk.
in that person's like shoes, I wouldn't want to show up either. You know what I mean? Because when it comes down
Yeah.
to that moment, and you have to weigh out your options.
I'll never forget going to, and I'm not going to say the organization or specifically, I'll never forget going to Washington, D.C. and having a different bunch of individuals from all walks of life, from all over the United States. And then when Secret Service or, state police, Capitol Police was roaming around and they were threatening people to arrest, I'll never forget the scream of a young lady. She was she was from New York City, Queens, New York. She was there with her mom and her grandmother. They all didn't have papers. They were protesting. And the organizers, you can hear the organizers saying, "Hold the line. Don't be afraid." And then all of a sudden you see the cops coming and it looked like something from a Martin Luther King movie,
Right.
of scattering the people. "Mom, run. I don't want you to get arrested. I don't want them to deport you." And I'm like, do these organizations that advocate for us not really care for us to put us in a situation at risk just because you're giving me a hotel stay and a plane ticket to go to Washington, D.C.? And I get that there's a bigger picture, but at the same time, Bruno's he's adjusting himself.
I know it's the hot seat.
But I'm saying why put our people? Is there not a better way? Because
That's what I think to myself.
is there not a better way? Because here we go. You go to Washington, D.C. You protest. The organizer has already set something up with the chief of police to be able, for the listeners that don't know how this works, the protest works. Protesters are organized.
Yes.
Organized.
Yeah.
They already know that you're not even going to see a jail cell. You're going to get you're going to get a slip. You're going to be out with $30 from the same organization. You don't even come out of pocket. The same organization that gave you the flight ticket, booked you the hotel room, is paying for your meals, is the same organization that's giving you the $50 voucher to be able to get out. And don't worry, you're going to be treated in the most professional way because this was already organized by the chief of police there. The organizer goes to the chief of police and they call him ahead of time and says, "This is an organized protest. We're going to keep calm. We're just going to make sure that we're not blocking anybody's way. We're going to stay out of the roads." Okay. Oh, then they do their show. "This is the Capitol Police. I need everybody to disperse. Those that will not disperse will be subject to arrest. And then you know what happens? Okay, raise your hand if you want to get arrested. Yeah, I'll do it. Hey, but you don't have papers. You're right. No, it's okay. They tell me nothing's gonna happen. I'm just gonna get out. It's okay. Are you sure? No, that. Yeah. Okay, can I get another 15 volunteers? Okay, yes, me. Perfect. They move. They listen to this. They move forward and they say, okay, I'm the one that's gonna get arrested. Okay, these are the people that. Everybody else, move back. If you do not want to get arrested, move back. They move back. Then you have your selective few that want to get arrested. They come, there's a set up tent, depending on the weather, there's a set up tent, it's roped off, they escort you over. Make sure that you get your picture taken with the local newspaper. Because if we're doing all of this and we don't get the publicity, it was all for nothing. The reason why they do this is because, not because it gets to the attentions of the politicians, no. Not that it gets into the attention of their communities, no. Is because they want a white organization press so they can blast it on the local news so that it can get your emotion, the viewer, your emotion to actually tweet or call your local congressman or senator to be able to be like, hey, sir, as your advisor, you need to get ahead of this. What's going on? What's the backlash is everywhere. This is not going to be good for your political campaign coming up and your renewal or your reelection. This is not a good look for you. And then what happens? Then they take action. And then guess what? We go to meetings like we did, right, Bruno?
Yeah.
Where they give us 30, 15 minutes depending on how loud we are. And they said, yes, I know everything that's going on. And congratulations on all your efforts. You guys make me so proud. And by the way, I'm not the one that you guys should be targeting, though. You guys should be targeting the other side. The other side is the one that, but I'm holding you accountable because I voted for you.
Yeah, which we elected you.
Exactly. We elected you to put you in that power position because you said, with all your false promises, that you were going to have our back.
Exactly.
But now you're keeping that seat warm. You got a pretty office. You got a nice office with good staff around you. But you don't want to look bad against your colleagues? You're a coward.
Yeah.
And that is how the whole process works.
Right.
Crazy. Pull the heartstrings of the community to tweet about it, to target at all. It happened when we were in Washington D.C. When hey, light up the cameras. Let's
different directions.
Different directions, all different communities, the Brazilian community, the BIPOC community, the African community, the Hispanic community, targeted from all angles. I'm telling you, not even 30 minutes later, we got a phone call. And everybody was like hovering around. Whoa. Who is it? It's Gene Shaheen's office. The chief of staff is going to come down and meet with us in the Hart building. Okay, great. Hey, guys, we were able to find a little bit of leg room for you guys to be able to meet with our senator. Everybody's like, all right. And then the ones that have given up, this is a waste of time. They're never going to meet with us. Oh, what? We got a meeting? Oh, Representative so-and-so. Here I am. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, where is this all going? And if this has been going on since Martin Luther King, right? Since the peaceful protest movement has been going on since the 60s, the 50s, right?
Mm-hmm.
If this is what we're constantly doing, is there another way so we don't put our people at risk, get the attention of our community, and get the allies still pull at their emotions and their heartstrings to be able to say, what you're doing to that community is unacceptable?
I think there's a difference between target audience and awareness. You know what I mean?
Speak about it.
And I think that in the sense of like, target audience is exactly what you just explained, right?
Yeah.
Target an audience. Awareness is like conversations like these.
Right.
Where there are, authentic debatable topics, and where not all Latinos think the same. Not all the people from the BIPOC community agree and think the same on every issue. And that's where we create awareness in the sense of like, we all have our own thoughts and our own ideas on how to do something and how to approach something. And I think guidance and awareness is key.
No,
that
absolutely.
well said. Well said. That you're absolutely right. Bruno, with you're in the forefront, my brother. What gives you hope?
Like honestly, like what really keeps me going, like are the experiences, that I had. Like honestly, like I don't try to look for, like any extrinsic, like motivation, because I'm only gonna see, like flaws, like bad things that like I don't conform with, and actually, that's going to demotivate me. So like I try to look for more, like intrinsic, self-awareness, like an ability to, like not tell people what you said, not tell people, like what you do, but to educate them, just like they know their rights. Like I tell them, like you have the right to remain silent, but if you do, this is what it's
these are the
like
consequences.
So like you want to do it, like go for it, go for it, because there are some people that like to be confrontational. So go for it, like, and see like where
see how that goes.
So I mean, and that's and that's fine. So like going to the state house, like we have asked for undocumented folks to go to the to the state house, and we told them, so there is a very high risk, that one of the legislators themselves may call like ICE,
if they are aware that
actually
someone is
has that
coming.
happened.
So, no, that has never happened.
But it's a possibility.
But it's a possibility.
Right.
Like it never happened. So like we tell them,
I don't
there
think
is
they
a
want that
likelihood,
backlash, though.
like of that happening. We had people that said, okay, no, like I'm fine. Like I don't want to do it, and we tell them, oh, so you can write a letter, if
so there's other ways. There's other ways that that can be done. But it's important for these, like, I feel like these advocacy groups and organizations to understand that we should be exploring other ways to do this.
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Effective ways.
Yes.
Is there?
Like honestly,
like who guided you, Bruno? Because I think about it, I'm like,
yeah,
man, like so much, and I think to myself, like, where can we get like us people like us, like where can we get guidance on subjects like these, and how to move, and how to go to the state house, how to write these things, you know what I mean?
Options.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like Jasmine, like a lot of the times I pretend that I know.
Fake it till you make it, right, Bruno? We've done that.
Speak for yourself, Jasmine. No, I get it. No, I get
but
it.
It's taken, I'm sure, a lot of self-education. Like you've had to teach yourself.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, when like the driver's license, for example, like to write it, it took, I don't know, like 40 to 60 hours of research in order to write, that piece of legislation.
That's
and
wild.
it's still, like it had, it changed, the whole thing. We have something completely different now.
The Latino community, a bunch of engineers, reverse engineer,
reverse engineers. Yeah.
Well, Bruno, it's been a pleasure having you on and educating us, and it's always great to have you on. Check out Bruno every Wednesday, twice a month. On Latinos en Vivo in Portuguese, talking to his community, educating and empowering.
Love
it.
Of course, when it's not Portuguese, it's in Spanish with us. And,
absolutely.
When we got topics to talk about in the community, or we're welcoming, tune into Latinos en Vivo Wednesdays from 12 to 1.
Absolutely. This was Asking for a Friend with my good friends, Jasmine and Bruno. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
USA Radio News with Tim Berg.
The bottom line, Putin deserves to be sanctioned now.